Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Keep the Line Moving, the podcast designed to talk about leadership, life, and inspiration. I am your host, Chris Gargano, and this week we have a guest. This individual was inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame, the National College Baseball Hall of Fame, the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, and last summer, his number 22 was retired by the team that drafted him, number 2 overall in the Major League Baseball draft back in 1985. His name, Will Clark. That team, the San Francisco Giants. What do we talk about in this conversation? Who was his favorite teammate? How does he talk to today's players as a special advisor and hitting instructor for the San Francisco Giants? And we talk about how to tap into your ability to focus, because Will focused against some of the greatest pitchers to have ever played the game. We'll talk about that and more. Our conversation begins now with Will Clark. All right, everybody, look who it is. It's Will the Thrill Clark, a guy who was a giant, a great giant, and a guy who got his number retired last summer. Will, let's start there. What was that moment like? I wish I was there, but the way that you came across at Oracle Park made me feel like I was there. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that all came about back in 2019, believe it or not. The Giants had told me that they were going to go ahead and retire their jersey number, and they wanted to do it in front of a big packed house, big audience. And then COVID hit, so needless to say, we had to cancel it for a few years. And so 21, they were thinking about doing it, but yet at the same time, they had fans in the ballpark, but at the beginning of the season, it really wasn't a lot of fans. And so I said, you know what? I said, let's just put it off. And so let's do 22 in 22. And they go, oh, geez, you're doing our marketing job for us. And so we went ahead and we did, the jersey retirement last year, July 30th. It was really special. I mean, for me personally, it was my Hall of Fame. And, having 3 years to prepare for it, I had only read the speech about 1,000 times. I knew it backwards and forwards. And so I really wasn't, I guess you want to say really emotional, as far as, getting up there and maybe getting tearful and all that. But one of my teammates, Mike Kruk, was telling some stories. He started getting a little choked up. I was like, whoa, wait a second here. But when I got out on the field, I let the speech fly, and it came out really good. A lot of people have said a lot of good things about it. And, it's pretty special going back to the ballpark and seeing number 22 hanging up there next to number 24, Willie Mays, the greatest that's ever been.
Absolutely, and so well put. And your speech was fantastic. And although you said you just rehearsed it a bunch of times, it seemed to me, which was probably a combination, you spoke from the heart. And that was consistent with who you are as a ball player and a person. Is that true? You just said, this is what it means to me, the city, being a Giant. This is my Hall of Fame. You spoke from the heart. How important is that, Will?
Well, not only from that end of things too, but also from the fact that everybody knows why we're there. Everybody knows we're going to retire the jersey and all that. And, you could go back and, you can pat yourself on the back all you want, but that wasn't what it was about. It was about, the fans and your teammates and friends and family that were there to support you all of those years. And so I wanted to recognize them. And then at the end, the speech, where I got really emphatic, it was definitely the truth. I mean, it was, what I felt about the city of San Francisco and me being a San Francisco Giant.
And you mentioned Mike Kruko, and he was telling you stories that got you emotional and all. Obviously, Will, I know your story, and the San Francisco Giants fans know your story. But for others that don't, Kruko and Bob Brennley, as you have said, were instrumental in getting you acclimated to the big leagues back in '86 when you came up. How important was that? And as you look back, how much did that mean to you upon reflecting on that?
Reflecting on that, it meant a lot. Kruko and Brennley were my mentors and taught me, the right way to do things on a baseball field and the wrong way. And, hey, we're not doing it the wrong way. So, for me personally, to be able to, give a little something back. And, Mike said some unbelievable kind words. And, I wanted him to know how much I felt about him and his family, because he basically, had me come live with him for at least the first part of my first year in the big leagues, and that's how he taught me the game. And I became Uncle Will to all his kids because while he and Jennifer had some mom and daddy time, I was out there in the backyard playing wiffle ball with the kids.
And I bet you loved every minute of it.
I had a good time.
And Will, you talk about, teaching you how to be a big leaguer, and Brennley and Kruk doing that for you, but it's more than just on the field, right? You don't want to show guys up. You don't want to put the tag too hard at first base, things of that nature. But what else did they teach you about being a pro and dealing with the big city of San Francisco and dealing with travel and dealing with, your teammates and rest and all that? What were some of those moments that they shared with you in lessons per se?
Yeah, I mean, it was a different game back then, and it was before the advent of videotape and CDs and DVDs and all that. So you had to do things by word of mouth first off, or you also had to do it as far as learning from other people, other veterans, and watching them and how they did their thing, both on the field and off the field. So for me personally, those guys are big factors in my life. And I've taken all the lessons that all of my teammates, not necessarily just those two guys, but all of my teammates, I've taken those lessons, and now I'm translating it into the kids today.
And that's a great place to go right now. What are you doing today as a special advisor to the San Francisco Giants? Tell us about what that role includes and what you do with the players of today.
So not only am I a special advisor, but I'm also kind of a special hitting instructor. So I will go see the major league team at least 4 times, maybe even 5 times a year, and work with some of those guys. Then, since I'm not a full-time coach, when the game starts, I'll go up in a suite level and I'll schmooze some of the clientele and suite owners and stuff like that. If the Giants have appearances for me to do. Then on top of that, I'll also go see our minor league affiliates. I definitely see AA, high A, and low A for sure. AA, I'm a little bit harder on those guys because those guys are knocking on the door of the big leagues, so I kind of get after those guys a little bit, and try to give them lessons immediately that are going to help out, and the A-ball guys, needless to say, they got a few more years, on their, term in baseball. So, I'm a little bit more patient with those guys.
So, Will, that's a great point. And when we came out and did that wonderful documentary series with you, when I was with the Giants back in 2012, we got to see you coaching Trey, your son's high school team. And I saw how you worked with them, and you were patient, yet you made it fun, and you had them engaged the whole time. So when you go, as you just said, single A, double A, triple A, those guys, how do you approach it? Like, how do you relax them, or how do you get them where you need a little bit more intensity? Like you said, with the double A guys who are ready to, perhaps make the jump to the big league sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Some of the guys, let's say I'm going into A-ball and I'm going to be a little bit more patient. I'll take 4 or 5 days, and pat them on the back and come on, let's go. Let's get this rolling. Let's go work a little harder. You got to do this when you fielding the ground ball. Or if it's a pitcher, I'll go up to him and go, hey, you fell into a pattern yesterday. And, guys like me figure that out, so I'll have a little bit more patience there. When I see the AA and AAA guys, it's quite the opposite. It is, hey, I need you to do this right now. Let's go. Let's get after it, because this is gonna make a major improvement in your game. Or if it's a pitcher, I got to tell him immediately, like that inning when he comes into the bench, hey, look, dude, you threw a 1-0 slider to everybody that inning. You can't keep doing that the rest of the game. And so those are the kind of things that I do with the AA, AAA guys, whereas the A-ball guys, I'm a little bit more patient.
Now, Will, we all know you get after it. I mean, you're passionate about the game. You're passionate about doing well. What do you do with a player? Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a Giant, just over the course of your years as either teammates or people you're coaching that aren't living up to the potential that you see. How do you approach a player like that?
You know what? I'm a little bit more kick him in the ass type of guy. When I was playing, hey, look, you got to get on board with the plan here, because you might be costing us some ball games. So I'm definitely more. I'm I'm better now at the pat you on the back type thing. When I was playing, that was not the case. If you were not on board with the program, you got the program explained to you. And that's what we talk about, like participation trophies and stuff like that. That's bull. We need a winner. I want guys that are winners. I'm not guys. If you're comfortable with losing, you and I are not going to get along. But if you're a winner, if you get after it, okay, we'll be friends.
So needless to say, the player that maximized their talent, like somebody who went all out and had maybe, just fringe ability, but they got everything out of it. I bet you were buying them dinner every night.
Yeah. I mean, all the time. And so that's a great point that you just made right there. And when I do go see these minor league teams, I write reports and send them to general manager, director of baseball ops, all that sort of stuff, and coaching staff, the whole works. Because I want them to know, hey, look, this is a little scrappy dude, and you give me 9 of these guys right here, we're going to win. Whereas opposed to a guy that's got a lot of talent and he's lazy, doesn't want to work hard, all that sort of stuff. Hey, I don't want that guy. Give me the 9 little scrappy dudes. We're going to win.
And that's tough to quantify, isn't it? It's tough to write a report about someone's intangibles and how they approach the game and how they study and how they watch videotape, right? And how they take those extra 45 ground balls, but not just ground balls, quality ground balls, right? Yeah. So how do you say that?
Well, it's easy to see when you've been in baseball your whole life and you're now a teacher of the sport. So it's kind of easy to see the work ethic and how a guy goes about things, whether he's going through the motion or he's really kind of getting after it. So that's pretty easy to see. But then on top of that is, I like the guys that show up early, they get their work done, and they get ready for the ball game. The guys who are, showing up 15 minutes before batting practice and hurrying up, throwing their uniform on and all that, and don't go get early work and work a little extra. Those are the guys that have a lot of problems with Will the Thrill.
Speaking of, working with Will the Thrill, you had some great managers. The Hum Baby, Roger Craig, Dusty Baker, La Russa. You really had some great managers. Yeah. How did you work with them? And I say that this way because they never probably ever question your intensity or how you approach the game, but you still have to have a relationship. What was your general relationship with managers?
So for me personally, as I got older in the sport, as I became more of a veteran, it got to be a one-on-one with me and the managers. So for Dusty Baker, Tony La Russa, guys like that, we were more one-on-one, go in the office. Hey, Skip, I need to talk to you a minute. This is going on with the team. We need to address it, those kind of things. With Roger Craig, he was my first manager, and I had him in the major leagues for 8 years. And he was more of the I'm in control type of guy. So you didn't really question anything that he did. But, every now and then I'd get called in, and I would not go in myself, but he would call me in and say, hey, what's going on with the team? Or, is this guy, slacking off a little bit, stuff like that. And that's how we would address it. Dusty Baker and Tony La Russa were more of, hey, you're in the clubhouse, you guys police your own, and we'll get along fine. So, Dusty Baker and I, and then Tony La Russa and I, till this day, have a really good relationship.
Not surprising. Did you ever give coaching or managing a serious thought? I know you're coaching, but managing in the big leagues, a serious thought?
You know what? Being around the big leagues now, I'm probably not, because, I explained to you, I'm not the greatest at pat you on the back. And man, a lot of these guys right now need not only patting on the back, they need, bowing down to them, kissing their hands, all that sort of stuff. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that if you ain't doing the job and you ain't doing it right, you're gonna catch some grief. And but I'm gonna do it the right way. I'm gonna call you into the office. I'm gonna close the door. It's just be me and you. Nobody's gonna know what went on in there. But way too many guys need to pat on the back. The game is getting a little too soft for me now.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, generational type thing. Back then you had to kind of earn it. And, look at the game. Look at the rule changes and all the craziness that we got now. The game, you can't go into second base and break up a double play. You can't run over the catcher. I mean, all these little bitty ass rules that didn't partake in our game. I mean, if a guy shows you up, you can't drill him no more. I mean, we used to drill guys left and right, and we also got drilled left and right for other things that our teammates did. You can't do that no more. So, like I said, the game's getting a little soft.
Well, let's look at this. Your ability, let's go back on the field. Your ability to focus. And there's moments that I could go on forever because obviously, your career is well chronicled because you had great moments in big times in games.
Yeah.
In 89, and I can go on and on. But the singular moments that your first at bat against Nolan Ryan in 1986, you hit a home run to center field in the Astrodome. And then in the 1989 NLCS, you hit that single up the middle off Mitch Williams. I was there that day. I was in college. The candlestick, I have never heard it louder. Respectfully to the 49ers or any of that. That was an unbelievable moment.
It was.
How did you focus when the lights were brightest, the sun was shining brightest, all that time? How did you do that?
From high school, I guess. I was kind of right in the middle of things. I was 3-4 hole hitter. I'd come up with, guys on it you needed driven in and, got to be pretty good at it. College, it got even better. And then, I got into pro ball and, within a few short years, I'm back in the 3-hole again. And so, when you came up in those pressure situations, and I tell a lot of people this, first off, you have to be able to breathe. You can't get caught up in the whole emotion of everything. You got to take your deep breath. All right, now I got to concentrate here. And that's what I did. I mean, I kind of zoned in, I guess you'd say. It just became, the pitcher and I was concentrating on his release point right above his shoulder. And I got almost like laser focused. And, you start doing that and you keep coming up in that same position and you keep getting, a clutch base hit or a home run or whatever it might be. You feed off of that. You not only want to be in that position a lot, but then you want to come through in that position a lot. And that's what I tell a lot of people, when the lights are brightest, that's when I wanted to be on the field. In a 7-0 game, I'm probably not going to have a real good game. But in a 3-2 game, oh yeah, we're gonna be laser focused. We're gonna be all over this.
So I want to get to what you tell people because I know you're probably talking about corporate. You're probably talking about above and beyond the world of baseball. But here's what I want to. The variable is this: you didn't just hit a home run in your first at bat in the major leagues. You hit a home run off Nolan Ryan, arguably one of the top 5 pitchers of all time. You didn't just hit the game-winning, in essence, because there was still some game left to play in Chicago in the NLCS in '89. It was Mitch Williams, who you didn't know where the ball was going. You didn't hit a grand slam against the Cubs. It was off Greg Maddux, who has more Cy Youngs that could probably fit in this room. My point is this. Those guys got paid too. Yep. And those guys, 2 of the 3 of them are in the Hall of Fame. So that isn't just watching the ball. That's watching the ball off unbelievable competition. Talk about that. Did you regard the pitcher, or was it just simply the release point and I got to hit this guy?
You know what? It is. It's, I just got to hit this guy. For me personally, coming up against those guys, it was a pleasure. I mean, because like I said before, you want to play against the best. You want to play against the guys that are doing a great job out there. And, to start off my career with Nolan Ryan, who'd ever thought that, and wrote that script. But then, you go 4 years later and, I'm facing, Greg Maddux, to get to the World Series, or facing Mitch Williams to get to the World Series. And so, it climbs a ladder for you. But, when Roger Craig gave me the job, he and Al Rosen gave me the job. First thing that they told me in spring training when they gave me the job, they said, you're going to face everybody's number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. He said, if we give you a day off, which is going to be unlikely, you're going to get a day off against somebody's number 5, but you're facing the big boys. And, you take that as a challenge, like, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to try to step up my game, especially when I play against the big boys.
And I bet when Roger Craig said that to you, your adrenaline went up rather than some people would get a little bit nervous or whatever. But you said, when's the lineup? Let's go,
Yeah, no, I mean, you look forward to that challenge. I mean, that's what you really do. You look forward to the challenge of, hey, that guy out there is one of the best ever in baseball, and you need to step up your game to try to match his.
So, Will, you said something earlier that I wanted to follow up on, which I said, is that you have conversations with corporate America all the time, and they probably ask you similar questions. How can I equate your intensity, your focus, and your success to what I do as a CEO or as the president of this? How do you translate success on the field to success in the boardroom, per se?
You know what? That's a great question. I do a lot of public speaking, and that is actually one of the topics that I will address in the corporate world. And the thing that I do is I equate it to communication. If you are a baseball player, you're going up to your teammates and you're saying, hey, he likes the outside part of the plate, or he falls into a pattern, he throws a 2-1 slider, whatever it is. The communication has to be there between player and player and manager. We talked about that before. Same thing goes on in the business world. Is CEOs and stuff have to have communication with their underlings to better the company. Same thing.
So if you saw somebody not getting it, or you could see potential, because you have that ability, you could see potential in a leader in the corporate space, and they're saying, hey, Will, what can I do? How are you going to speak in their language rather than saying in the dugout, hey, get your ass moving?
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's what I got to tell them. Hey, look, sometimes you got to be firm. Sometimes, like you said, you pat them on the back and you grabbing them around the shoulder. Hey, come on, and then sometimes, people need a swift kick every now and then. They just don't get it. And hey, fire away, give them a kick.
No, understood. So listen, you have a lot of people that are coming to you for advice, and there are people on, these AA guys, the AAA guys. And sometimes what you say, because of the credibility that you have, how will you have those moments? Will you engage them off the field, or will you do it on, how do you try to set the setting to make sure that they're receptive to the message?
So that's another great question. So, I do a lot of stuff to kind of show them. Especially like the kids in A ball. Normally those guys have not seen me too much. So, sometimes they won't get, hey, hold your hands a little higher, or keep this elbow down, or keep that elbow, whatever it might be. And they won't get it. And they'll say, can you show me? And I'll jump in the cage and I'll take a few swings, and they look at me and they go, oh, Jesus. I go, yeah, that's kind of what it's supposed to look like right there. That's what I'm telling you. So sometimes I have to show them, but then another way I do it is I am literally a student in a game. I pay attention to everything. I don't miss too much. When I look at a baseball game, I usually, and it's an educated guess, a very educated guess, but I'm usually right about 85% of the time on what pitch is coming, the next pitch. And so when I'm in a dugout and I'm standing next to some pitchers, and I go, okay, here comes the fastball down and away. Here comes fastball up and in. Here comes the break ball down and in, and I'm right about 6 times in a row. All of them will look at me and go, how do you know that? And I go, because I've been paying attention to the game. And when you guys throw, I'm paying attention to you to see if you fall in those patterns. And so by showing them that I kind of know what I'm talking about, you gain their trust, you gain their respect. Another thing too is because of being in the major leagues for the amount of time I was, being with the organization for the amount of time that I've been with them. Not only am I writing reports on kind of what I see on the baseball field, but I'm also writing reports as to work ethic. What kind of dude is he? Is he a teammate? Does he hide in the training room? Does he come out the training room? It's stuff like that. So I do gain a quick rapport with the guys because I'm there for usually a week. So I'm not there the majority of the season with these guys. So I gain a quick rapport and then try to give them as much information as possible.
Awesome. And Will, it all matters. And you know that. It all matters how you come in and out of the dugout, how you grab your glove and go in your hat and go to the position. Hustle. All that matters. Not when you've made it. It always matters. To that point, I would ask you this. Who's the best teammate you ever had?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, Kruk. He's and I guess I'm kind of that way anyway. I was always a student of the game. I always paid attention quite a bit, but he did the same thing from a pitcher standpoint. And so when he gave me little bits of advice, it was from not only a pitcher standpoint, but a baseball player paying attention to another baseball player. And so for me, I owe Mike Kruk, the majority of my professional career, because not only what he taught me, I hand down on a daily basis.
Oh, I love hearing that. I miss Kruk. I love it. I love
Yeah.
hearing that. What about Kevin Mitchell? How talented was he? The 1989 NL MVP.
The Boogie Bear. I love him. Oh, he's great. We got him from the Padres, and he had been with the Mets before, and he came over there, and he kind of the next year, because he came kind of mid-season, but the next year he settled into the 4 slot, and I was 3. I hit right in front of him. So the Boogie Bear and I got along great because I'd do stuff like we'd be in the on deck circle. I'd tell him, "Hey, I'm going to get on. You drive me in." He goes, "You got it, Thrill." And he would. But funny story about Kevin Mitchell. You'll see it on ESPN. He barehanded a ball in St. Louis. He was running down. Ozzie Smith hit it. He's running down the left field line, and he looked down to find the fence. And when he looked up, he had overran it. So he couldn't stick his glove back behind him. He just put his big old bear paw up there and barehanded it. And he gets in the dugout, and everybody's laughing, right? I mean, they're all howling. And I'm sitting there next to him, and he goes, "What are they laughing at?" And I go, "Boogie." I said, "Nobody barehands a baseball in baseball on the dead run up against the fence." And he goes, "Well, I overran it." I said, "I know you overran it." I said, "I get it." I said, "But nobody does it." I said, "You do know you're going to be on ESPN for the rest of your life, right?" And he goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "They'll show that for the rest of your life."
You know what? So true. And I love that highlight. I'd never get sick of it. Lastly, here, before I let you go, the Giants dynasty, the 3 championships in the 5 years, as you look back on that, and we're all reflecting on it, and they had a 107 win season a couple years ago, their success, and Gabe and everybody and Farhan, we're rooting for them, obviously. But when you look back at that, what was the right recipe? Why were they able to pull those championships off? Obviously, I think about it. I was there. It was so tremendous. Is it singular? Is it dynamic? Is it complex? How do you look back at the success of those teams?
It's pretty easy. You want to know the truth. You look at those teams and you can just write it down. Pitching and defense. You get pitching and defense, and the guys stay healthy for the majority of the time. You get pitching and defense, I'm going to find a way to get you 2 or 3 runs a game. But if you hold that other guy down to 1, 2 runs a game, we're going to win a lot of baseball games. And those teams, even the successful teams that I was on, 87, 89, 2003, when I was with the Rangers, our playoff runs with the Rangers, our playoff run with St. Louis, my last year, all pitching and defense oriented. And then we find a way to get the offense.
Makes total sense to me. Hey, what are you doing with Burns before I let you know?
We're having a ball. Eric Burns and I do a pod. I guess it's called a podcast. It's No Filter Network. You guys can go check it out, No Filter Network. We do it usually Tuesday nights. Sometimes if we were a little bit busy, we'll switch it over to Wednesday night. But Eric Burns and I, we cut up, we laugh and giggle because it's no filter. You can curse on there, and Burns, he's a maniac, and I love him to death. And we have a ball. I mean, we really do a lot. We discuss anything across the board. I mean, we're discussing Giants baseball, Oakland A's baseball, the Yankees, who signed a new contract, whatever. And then we'll flip it around and what's, Eric Burns' wife, cooking for dinner, So we it's across the board. We have a ball. We laugh and giggle. There's a lot of people that watch and they get into the chat room. And so as we're going through, they're chatting and they're asking questions, and we'll switch subjects and go if we see something we really like in the chat room. And then we also have a feature where we can let people into the broadcast. So like, you and I are on the live stream right now, but we can have 8 or 10 other people in there asking questions and stuff. So it's pretty interactive. We have a great time with it. Like I said, it's No Filter Network, and we have a ball.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a few of them. That's fantastic. I got to watch more, and I got to have this maybe more no filter, huh, Will? You got any
Yeah.
advice on that
Hey, look,
regard?
you know what? You've done a good job so far. I know that you moved from the West Coast, you're on the East Coast now, but you're doing a good job with your show. And if you want to do something like this again, just give me a holler.
You know it, Will. You're the best. You're simply the best. The thrill. Thank you so much. And we thank Will very much for being on the show. And yes, he'll be on again sometime in the near future. My number one takeaway is this. You saw that we talked about it on a couple of occasions, getting the most out of your ability. And we talked about players that maybe weren't trying as hard and living up to their potential and what Will said to them and how to get the most out of what you have, your talents. We talked about that a lot. Hope you enjoyed this conversation, everybody. For our podcast producer, Paul Salazar, I am your host, Chris Gargano, and I've enjoyed this week very much. We'll have a great guest next week. Please follow, please like, please comment, do what you like. We appreciate it. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time on Keep the Line Moving.
We thank you for listening to Keep the Line Moving. We would love it if you subscribed or left a review. For more podcast episodes, check out our YouTube page. If you'd like to work with the Gargano Leadership Group, check out our website. This has been a GLG production, copyright 2023. For our podcast producer, Paul Salazar, and our marketing coordinator, Savin Narwal. Have a great week, everyone.